welcome listeners to the Fleetcast, ultimate destination for all things Obsidian Fleet related in the vast expanse space. I'm your host, and today we have a very special guest with us, Paul, a master of communication within Obsidian Fleet's community and the game master of the renowned USS Athena. Paul is a seasoned member of our fleet communication team, whose expertise lies not only in fostering a sense of unity and camaraderie among our fleet members, but also crafting captivating adventures. As the game master of the USS Athena, he holds the reins of the Starship crew's fate, guiding them through treacherous encounters, thrilling discoveries, and challenges. So join us today as we delve deep into it. Hello, Paul. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your ship.
Well, my ship is the USS Athena, Prometheus class. We've been running since about mid-2019. We've got about 10 active players now. Some ways we're quite a traditional Star Trek sim, but given the kind of profile of the ship itself and the class, we tend to be a bit more action-oriented in some of the stuff we do. I'm also quite big into the long-term, big, epic storytelling, so we often try and do season-long storylines and plot. I'll try and plot out like 6 or 7, maybe 8 at a time, and then build to that season finale kind of thing at the end of that. So a little bit like some of the newer Star Trek series in a way.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite mission that you've had so far?
That's a tough one because I've had a lot of fun ones on the different sims that I've been on. So the question, if it's an Athena one...
Just Athena, it's absolutely fine.
I would say, oh man, the current one we're doing is pretty fun actually. My captain character's been arrested for murder, having blown up something, and people have got killed and stuff. And so there's this kind of conspiracy to get him off the table essentially. So it's been quite an interesting one to work through that, but also it's allowed us to bring back some older characters, characters of mine. Our former XO, played by John, is kind of guesting, bring back his former XO character as a witness. So that's quite exciting and interesting. So I'm quite excited to see how this is going to pan out, actually.
Yeah, it's a good mission, and I've been involved at parts of it, so I'm excited to see it. I've been stalking as well. So, do you have a favourite joint post that you've done on Athena? Throwing the tough questions out today.
No, it's hard because I love everything about my guys, and we're all really good fun. So it's hard to pick out just one or two. I think there's a short series of posts, sort of an ongoing storyline I'm working on with Serani. You know her. If that's how you pronounce her name. I don't know how you pronounce her name. But we've been working on a kind of, we're calling the storyline In Dreams, where two of the characters seem to be sharing the same dream, and the kind of recurring thing that happens, not like really, really regularly, but maybe once per mission we'll do a JP that's these two characters having the same dream together, and we're back and forth it. And it is building towards something, but one or two of the most recent ones, I'm really quite pleased with how they've panned out, and it just allows us to explore the characters doing something slightly differently, and maybe slightly out of character because it's not them, it's just a dream. So a couple of those more recent ones I've been enjoying quite a lot, actually.
Oh, that's intriguing. Okay, so what's been your most proudest moment?
This is a bit an obvious one. Our season finale for season 1. It was our Avengers Endgame moment. Getting Obsidian Fleet CEOs to cameo characters arriving, save the day. That was just, it was awesome to plan and to write. Really, really, really pleased with that one. I'm going to throw in another one that's slightly left field, and it's not an Athena one, but way back in the day, I used to CEO Obsidian Command back many years ago now, but we had a really great storyline running around Federation Day, and it actually got Delac to come and write with us for a post or two. We got Chris so excited that he wanted to come along, and he stole one of my NPCs and was just messing around with us, and it was just, for me as a CEO, just letting him come in and get inspired by us and join on with the storyline was actually really cool.
If you ever have like dwarves turn up on Athena, you'd probably be able to get him involved. He's writing dwarves at the moment, so definitely if you've got like a holodeck or anything, grab him. I'm sure he'd love that.
Let's do it.
Okay, so what was your first ship in the fleet?
So when I first joined Obsidian many years ago now, my very first ship that I joined was the USS Arcadia.
Oh wow, okay.
That was when Captain Oliver Lee was in command. That was my very first ship, and then I actually moved on to Obsidian Command from there, and ran that for a few years. Then I took a hiatus, and I came back, and I've been on a few other bits and pieces since.
So was Lee your first primary character in the fleet, or do you have another primary character?
He was the CEO of that when I joined it. So I wasn't the CEO there. I actually started out with a guy called Lieutenant Kevin Dash on the Arcadia, who I've now brought back as an NPC on Athena, just to recycle old characters. So I brought him back, so he's now going around.
Good. I like it when you can recycle characters for a new sim. It kind of breathes new life into them, which is always a good thing.
And they've got a bit more built-up backstory as well, which I really love.
Yeah.
Like, you can reference stuff that's happened on another sim. And I love kind of that wider Simiverse idea. So bringing in other characters who've been elsewhere and done other things, fleshes it out a bit more. It makes it feel more living and breathing.
It's one of my favourite things, having Ehestri, being able to go to different ships, because obviously being, my prime character is Bregnol, and just having that character to be able to go around, it's fun,
Absolutely. I loved it.
We do love Simverse, don't we? You have your Athena captain, but you also have a few other characters. How many do you write?
Too many.
And who are they?
Too many. I have loads. If we're just talking about player characters, because I'm across a few different Obsidian Sims at the moment, I have Jake Ford, Exo on Mary Rose, who I've been playing for quite a long time now. I play Ellie Evans, the Green Ranger on Solar Force, and Jonathan Monroe, who's a fire-wielding mutant on X-Men Avalon. And then I've got a bajillion NPCs across all of those different Sims.
You do have a bajillion NPCs. Yeah, that is 100% correct. I will agree with you there. Do you have a favourite character out of all of them?
Again, difficult to answer. I lean into, there are two that I would have picked that are my favourites to play with and write. The first is Jake Ford on Rosie. I think he is one of those characters. I've played him for such a long time, and he's had such a good character development arc, particularly recently. I just find it quite easy to find his voice, and he fits into a lot of different situations where I can play him as the kind of straight guy, or I can play him a little bit in the kind of comic relief, but of the joke character. And also he's able to be a leader if he needs to be, and I think that's quite cool. So he fits into quite a few different scenarios, and I feel like it works quite well there. I'd say my other character that I absolutely love and adore playing is my first CO character in Obsidian was Amaya Lance, and just don't think I'll ever let go of her.
No, I think she's captured you, and you are her person now.
I just, one of those things, she'll just keep reappearing. I like to recycle characters. She will be recycled. So she is now, as I mentioned, on the Athena mission at the moment. I brought her in as the replacement CO.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she's filling in while Kane is under arrest and being court-martialed. So she's been assigned as the temporary interim CO. And so...
Yeah, I'm excited for you.
It's great. Well, it's what I'm hoping for her to have is kind of redemptive arc. She's been through a lot. She went through all this kind of PTSD stuff, and again, really difficult to write that in a way that I want to kind of see her continuing to grow, but not just rush it. So bringing her back for this sort of thing is helpful to have that redemptive pathway and get her back into something that's a bit more sane, to be honest.
Yeah, you can't always have that insanity part of a character. There has to be a point where you're able to kind of bring them back from the edge,
100%. And I really want it for her, because I love her as a character. I think she's been very close to my heart for a long time.
Well, you're her person, as I said. Okay, do you have a favourite era of Star Trek?
I'm very partial to the DS9 era, I've got to be honest. That was peak storytelling, great one-off stories as well as long-term big stuff. I do like the Enterprise era too as well. I think that was cut short way too quick for me, and I really...
Oh, we won't go into that. We all know my opinions on the Enterprise era. We'll be here for 2 hours, and it won't be about you. It'll be my rant.
Genuinely, if I had more time, I would be joining you on an Enterprise era.
Maybe in the future. Do you have an era that you don't really like, or just don't have a lot of love for?
I don't. I've got to be honest, and I'm not being funny with it. I don't really like the Discovery era stuff that we've seen so far. Just the first few seasons of Discovery didn't really capture me. However, it did give us Strange New Worlds, which is absolutely one of the best Star Trek seasons I've ever seen.
Yes, very much.
Season 1 of Strange New Worlds, just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I can't praise it enough. I think how those actors captured the characters that we've known from 50 years ago,
100%.
And they've breathed new life into them. It's just amazing.
100%. And like Captain Pike, Handsome Mount there, Captain Pike is just one of my favourite captains now.
But do you not feel that actors actually had his own redemption arc after, all the Marvel stuff that were pear-shaped and, the bad reviews, that he's come to Star Trek and we've kind of kept him safe and we've kind of adored him?
I think that's fair to say. I didn't really watch him in the Marvel stuff, if I'm honest. It was nice to see him cameo in the Doctor Strange film. That was quite a nice touch. Yeah, I didn't actually end up watching Humans.
I would highly recommend it if you like the actor. It just didn't get a lot of love when it deserved it.
Probably at his best when he's talking, and he can't really talk.
Yeah. It's a bit difficult as that character. Obviously, we all know we deal with gatekeepers. How do you handle gatekeepers who try and join your sim or just out in the world?
It's a difficult one. Personally, I don't feel like I have to deal with them a lot, or I try not to get involved in it, I think is probably more a thing. As a writer myself, I do writing a lot. I've written written most of my life, I appreciate and understand that not everyone will like the same stuff. The way I'd compare it is like having a favourite sports team, and there'll always be those people who've got rose-tinted glasses and personal bias when it comes to their tea. So people have like preferences, so it's impossible to make everyone happy all the time. You'll always support your own team, and you'll always kind of have that kind of, we can do no wrong, this was always the best, they're the best players, etc., etc. So I think for dealing with them, I guess it's that kind of smile and nod thing from me. Did you ever see that that Shatner comedy skit? I don't know if it was on Saturday Night Live, where he's doing the kind of Comic-Con thing. There's a guy in the crowd who says, he's like, what was the safe code for that safe you unlocked in episode 23? And he just turns around and goes, get a life, it's a TV show. And it's that's kind of how I feel about gatekeepers. It's like, come on, TV show. Who cares how many pilgrims you've got? If it's 100 feet, if it's 50 feet long, and who cares?
Yeah, it's a good approach. I like that approach, actually. I might start it. It's so engaging. You might have taught me a lesson today, Paul.
There we go.
So we've obviously got the television shows, we've got the movies. Do you consider the book and the comic canon as well?
Not about considering them canon. I used to read a lot of the old Star Trek novels when I was younger. Some of the early DS9 books were brilliant. I loved them. And I've read more recently, I got into the Myriad Universes stories, which are kind of alternate universe stuff.
Yeah.
What if Spock and Kirk never met? What if the Cardassians never left DS9? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like those because you don't need to think of them as canon. They're quite obviously not canon, and you can play around with the universe. And I love what if storylines anyway. So I would never consider them canon, but I like to use them as inspiration. I think that's the angle I would take. And it's kind of a little bit similar to Star Wars in that some of the stuff that people are crying out for, all of kind of, the Thrawn was this epic character and all this stuff that happened after the original films and stuff like that. And people are using that as inspiration, which I think is probably the right approach. You don't want to do but like exactly word for word and scene for scene. But I like to use them as inspiration rather than canon. Same goes for Star Trek Online, actually, which I have played, and I know a lot of people talk about that and how that's inspired Card even, some of the stuff that we've seen on there.
I think it's more a two-way street with Card, because a lot of the stuff that they had on Star Trek Online, they've taken to Picard, but then they've taken Picard stuff back to Online. Yeah. So I think it's a give and take.
That's difficult then, because you've got all these people who've probably never even played the game and probably never will. I mean, I've played through most of the storylines on it until the kind of endgame content, and I got a bit bored. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in the universe of Star Trek Online, which I'm a bit like, we're back at war with the Klingons again, which doesn't necessarily all fit entirely into the fleet canon that we have and what happens in TV shows and stuff like that. So I take inspiration, absolutely, and there's some great ideas in there. I always liked it. One of the things I'd always like to do is to go back and watch the old original series episodes and use ideas and concepts from them as kind of inspiration and reappearing of things. So like, because I know like people in simming world like to use Q, for instance. Like, Q shows up and does something, which is cool, it's great. I'd love to have something similar like that. I always wanted to have Gary Seven show up in one of my sims from the original series stuff. I thought that would be kind of cool, because he's not that Q level being, but he's interesting and he's different, and it gives you some different things to play with. So I'd love to take some more inspiration from what's out there at the moment.
Okay, definitely interesting conversation. Giving me a lot of food for thought. So on top of all this craziness that we do in the fleet, you're a dad. How do you balance two?
Badly. I think it's work-life balance is always tricky in any situation. I'm sure you know this, being a parent yourself.
Yes.
You want to give and devote as much time to them as you can, but balancing that out with space for yourself. And this is a thing I've learned over the last many years, is it's okay to take time out for yourself and take yourself off to a room and do some writing if that's what you need to do, as long as you're not spending all of the time away from family and children and stuff like that. So, I mean, even just in the last year, I feel like some of my sim time for writing has reduced a little bit, because I'm consciously spending more time as a parent as my kids get older.
Does your kids like Star Trek?
No. No, they don't. My wife's never been into Star Trek at all, although she said she grew up in a house where her mum and brothers would watch Star Trek, Stargate, those things all the time, and she was never really into it, like sort of thing that she just didn't grab her. So she was aware of it, but never really got it. She's fine.
We don't all like the same things.
So I mean, it's been difficult because we don't have the same culture as we did when you and I, for instance, grew up watching BBC Two on a weeknight. You get home from school, you'd have a tea, you'd watch The Simpsons and then Star Trek Next Generation or DS9, BBC Two, and that would be your evening sorted. And I loved that. It was great.
It's very different nowadays.
Very different nowadays. Everything's on streaming services. services, so you're a bit more deliberate about watching it. You can't just passively absorb stuff like that, being around it. So, I've never tried necessarily to say, hey, you should definitely watch this with me. I'm quite content to let my kids find their own things.
Yeah.
So my son's more into kind of, he's a YouTube addict, and so he'll...
Oh, no, you've got one too.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he'll be...
My sympathies.
I'll discover that he subscribed to another channel on my YouTube account, and I'm like, what's this from? It's some random guy who travels around on the trains or something like that, and okay.
Yeah, no, we have that too in this house, and I really don't like it. I don't like the programs that she subscribes to, and it really irritates me. But she likes it, so I do offer limits on how much YouTube time she gets. If someone wanted to get into writing, what advice do you have for them?
Read. Reading is what got me into writing. Read a variety of things, read a load of stuff, read good stuff, read bad stuff, books, read comic, fiction, read non-fiction. Genuinely, as I said before, growing up reading Star Trek novels that my brother bought, the reason I got into Star Trek in the first place is because my older brother was watching and reading those, and I saw the books on his shelf and I thought, I want to read those. So that's kind of the origins of how I got into both Star Trek and into kind of writing, was very much of seeing and absorbing and reading those things and then branching out into your own stuff. I mean, I've just turned to my right, and on my bookshelf next to me, I've got a bunch of Marvel comic and graphic novels. I've got, see here, some science fiction stuff. I've got some action thrillery type stuff, a bit of Lee Child going around. So I kind of, for me, if I'm struggling with that kind of motivation to write, I always find that the biggest inspiration for me is reading something probably good.
Yeah.
That will just take me out of my current space and give me a bit more, it's interesting the way that story's been played out, and I like to understand how a different author will plot out story and maybe kind of lay the seeds and breadcrumbs to lead you towards a big twist that comes up. So I really like that kind of thing. So yeah, my advice for anyone wanting to get into writing is read.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some quick fire questions now for you. Right. Stargate or Battlestar Galactica?
Battlestar Galactica.
Stargate or Star Wars?
Star Wars, 100%.
Power Rangers or Doctor Who?
Oh, okay, that's a naughty question to ask. Oh, that's tough. I will say Doctor Who by a hair.
Oh, okay. I'm going to tell him. Okay. Have you got any other sci-fi programs that you love?
Too many. Loads of them. Science fiction programs that I love. Firefly is an obvious one.
Yes.
I used to read, so there was Space Above and Beyond was a great series I got into when I was younger.
Yeah, that's a classic.
I was really good. I really enjoyed that. What else am I thinking about? Sliders back in the day, that was a great series. That got me into that kind of love of both what-if scenarios. Also a love of history. I do like history quite a lot. I like studying it. I like reading about it and learning about it. So that was one of kind of like a kind of parallel path of looking at different...
Yeah. Have you seen any of the new Quantum Leap stuff or anything? Because that struck me as something that you might like.
I haven't seen that yet. No, I will check it out.
It's a good... have you got any other programs that you love that aren't sci-fi?
I'm currently watching through The West Wing again for about the 5th or 6th time, which is one of the best shows ever made. Got a real appreciation and love for Spartacus TV series for Stars. It's one of those kind of guilty pleasures of mine that I just love. I think it's brilliantly acted, and the way that they constructed the language and the dialogue is superb. You can get over the kind of X-rated graphic acts of violence, which is fine. I don't mind that, but for me, the characters in the story are so kind of compelling.
Yeah. Time and a place.
Yeah.
It's a time and a place for the X-rated stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't mind it. It's a bit like 300, just stylized.
Okay. Do you have anything that you watch, listen, read that gives you inspiration more than anything else?
The thing that's jumping immediately to my mind is Critical Role, and that's because it's great. It's improvised storytelling. It's done by professional voice actors, so the characters are unique and different and believable. Matt Mercer's incredible at storytelling and crafting a world that they're playing in, and I know that when I go back and I watch 2 or 3 episodes of that, it just fills me with this kind of sense of inspiration to go off and try something new, or to think about some of the themes that they've played around with. So that inspired me to get into D&D properly as well. Honestly, D&D is a great source of helping me become a better writer. When I was creating a campaign to run, and I did it completely homebrew, I had to get really deep into world building and who are the different key organizations and why do they exist, and what are they in conflict with, and who are the people in charge, why are they in charge, how did they get there, why is the world the way it is, why are the countries the way they are, and what is it that is unique about them. So I had to really dig deep into world building, which I'd never really gotten into before. So through that read has just made me a bit better writer and more kind of big picture in my thinking.
That's good. Is there anything else that you'd like to add around your ship? Anything else you'd like people to know?
I have no idea. I don't know what to say to that. I think I've covered the basis, really. It's fine. Right, thanks for that.
Thank you for coming along.
Bye.